Let's bring in Mike Florio, our good buddy from Pro Football Talk Live and Football Night in America. Let me start with Sean Payton. I threw it out last week. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he just went back to TV here. If he surveyed all these jobs and went, you know what, I'll take another year to kind of see what's going to open up next year. Where do you think we stand with Sean Payton?
Yeah, I was told a couple of weeks ago, Dan, it's 50-50 whether he coaches this year or next year. He hadn't done any interviews yet. And the reality is, if you don't coach this year, you're not going to make the money you would have made coaching this year. That goes away and it never comes back. But you've got to find the right spot. And I think one of the practical impediments, the four teams interested in him all had entrenched general managers. And it is our human nature to protect our backyard. In comes Sean Payton with an inclination to take over. You necessarily have less juice as the GM of the team. That's been a very real factor in all of this. So when you aren't getting perhaps the power you thought you would get, the money may not be close to the $20 to $25 million we've heard attached to Payton all the way back to last year when the Dolphins were ready to hire him and got busted for tampering with him and Tom Brady. Maybe you do wait a year. Maybe there is no job that just screams out to you, I've got to have this job, especially with a possibility that the Chargers job maybe comes open next year if there's another failed season with Justin Herbert at quarterback, because I would imagine any candidate wants that job if that job comes open.
Dan Quinn going back as the defensive coordinator with the Cowboys. What do you make of that move?
Well, I suggested initially that he decided to go back after he realized he wasn't going to have an opportunity to go anywhere else. And I was told privately that he wasn't out of it with these other jobs. He just decided it was the right thing for him. It just seems odd to me, and this is a point Peter King made earlier today on our show, the idea that he would go through those interviews, distract himself at a time when he should have been preparing for the 49ers offense. Why go through that? Peter said the interview with the Colts was 4 hours. Why go through that if you really aren't interested in taking the next step up? And maybe he learned something through the process where he said, I'm fine where I am. Maybe he's the wink, wink, nod, nod successor to Mike McCarthy. I don't know. But it's just odd to me when you go through the process and don't wait for a final answer before making your decision.
But then Mike McCarthy said Jerry Jones wants him to coach as long as Tom Landry coached.
Maybe he meant as long as Tom Landry coached after Jerry Jones bought the team. He'd be 85, Dan.
I know.
He'd be 85 if he coaches as long as Landry did. 85.
Explain the Carolina situation here with Frank Reich getting the job. His daughter was hired earlier by the Panthers, and then Steve Wilkes is on the outside looking in.
Well, and let me start there with Steve Wilkes. The statement that was issued by his lawyer yesterday makes it clear that the Panthers are going to be invited to the pending lawsuit that has 5 or 6 teams already joined in it, with Brian Flores, Steve Wilkes, and Ray Horton alleging racial discrimination. But the element here will be that Steve Wilkes wasn't hired in whole or in part because of the fact that he joined arm in arm with Brian Flores to stand up to the Shield, to say you have employment practices that are wrong. And it's amazing how many people don't realize it's illegal to hold that against someone. That's protected activity under the law. You have the right to address grievances against your employer in court, and they can't hold it against you. They can't not choose you for the head coaching job for any reason tied to that. And when you look at Reich, you look at Wilkes, you look at what Wilkes did, the Panthers had better be able to explain persuasively why they chose not to continue with Wilkes. And here's how Reich's daughter factors into it, because it's not about nepotism. Nepotism's rife in the NFL. But she announced she was working for the Panthers about 90 minutes after the final game of the regular season on a Sunday. I guarantee you that if and when the Panthers are joined to this lawsuit, Steve Wilkes' lawyers will delve into every nook and cranny, emails, text messages, aggressive deposition questioning. When did you know? Did you know? Did you know when she went to work that Frank Reich was already targeted? Because that goes to the whole idea of the sham interview. The owners know before they even start the process who they're going to hire. And all of the interviews, including the Rooney Rule interviews, are just check the box to comply with league policy.
I know that sometimes we don't let facts get in the way with like Nathaniel Hackett getting the job as offensive coordinator with the Jets, which obviously means that Aaron Rodgers will then go to the Jets. Right, Mike? Anything to this?
Well, Dan, I firmly believe last year that the Broncos, when they hired Nathaniel Hackett to be the head coach, thought they had a very good shot at Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think it was a coincidence that just within an hour or two after Rodgers announced he was staying with the Packers for 2022, the Broncos had a deal in place for Russell Wilson. I think Rodgers was plan A and Wilson was plan B. So the Jets have come out and said they're looking for a veteran quarterback. Aaron Rodgers potentially is available. It's not something you just snap your fingers and do. You've got a huge cap number that's got to be dealt with. The Packers are going to want something in trade. First, Rodgers has to decide he even wants to play. But obviously, the presence of Nathaniel Hackett would make the Jets more desirable than they would be if he wasn't there. But there's a lot of decisions Rodgers has to make before he even gets to the point where he's assessing where he would play next year if he plays for a different team. I just assumed last year he got to the brink and decided, I'm just staying in Green Bay. And I don't know why he wouldn't just decide to stay in Green Bay this year. He's going to make nearly $60 million fully guaranteed if he says to the Packers, I'm here, I'm staying, deal with me.
Tom Brady was testy with Jim Gray, but I kind of viewed that maybe different than most people. I thought I'm going to come out and be angry at my friend Jim Gray just to let people know that I haven't spoken to any other team right now.
Exactly.
You're
absolutely right. First of all, Dan, the podcast is pre-recorded. They could have taken that part out, right?
Or re-recorded it. Like, hey, ask me again.
Yeah, he didn't even ask him, what are you going to do? He said, do you have a timetable?
Yeah.
Dan, we saw what happened last year. He was going to Miami. He and Payton were going to Miami. And then it all hit the fan, and the Dolphins lost a first-round pick, and that was that. I think this was his way to throw everyone off the trail now that he's talking to other teams. They're talking to him. It's all tampering violations. He needs to be able to talk to them now so he can make a decision in March.
Is Miami in play now? Is Miami in play with Brady?
What's that?
Miami in play?
From his perspective, they're definitely in play. From the Dolphins' perspective, they get very upset when you suggest that because I think they don't want to complicate Tua's ongoing recovery from his latest concussion any more than they already have by giving any credence to the idea that they're looking for another quarterback. So I think the Dolphins are going to be very quiet about it, and they already got stung last year with tampering. But Brady, I believe, is at least interested in evaluating the possibility. Why wouldn't he be? They've got plenty of pieces in place where he could go and play well, and contend for a championship.
Explain what you were hinting at with the title games maybe in the future being played at neutral sites or on different days. I think you said Sunday or Monday. Like, where are we headed with the potential for a neutral site title game?
Well, there's only so many places in the pizza that the NFL can cram the cheese. And there are certain revenue opportunities that you can take advantage of without increasing your cost by a single penny. And this whole neutral site thing, for me, the moment, Dan, was last Friday. Right about now, when the league issued this announcement of 50,000 tickets sold in 24 hours to a neutral site Bills-Chiefs game, half to Bills season ticket holders, half to Chiefs season ticket holders. And I thought, they're telling us where this is going. They're doing their victory lap preemptively, so we all understand that at some point in the future, there's going to be a push for neutral site conference championships. They want the college big game atmosphere when you tune in and you've got sad reaction from Texas fan, sad reaction from Alabama fan. They're all in the same place, 50-50 in their team's colors. It doesn't happen at the Super Bowl because that's a destination. You get your tickets before you even know who's going. Hey, I'm going to the Super Bowl this year. I don't care who's in it. I'm going to the Super Bowl. Destination conference championship means half the state, like the old sitcom premise where they put the tape down the middle of the room. That's what the NFL is looking for. And people hate it. But what's going to happen if they do it? We're going to not watch it? Just like the Sunday-Monday possibility to split it up. Because I'd love to just focus on 49ers-Eagles Sunday and then worry about Bengals-Chiefs Monday. But fans don't like it. But if the NFL sees a way to make more money doing it that way, they will.
Have a great weekend, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live, the show that precedes ours on Peacock with Chris Sims.